Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to another video. I'm Mike Willoughby. This is my lovely assistant Beth. Say hi.
Hi.
So hopefully you watched the last video. We talked about signing up for your first match and some things that you should know going into that. Today we're going to talk more about what to actually do when you get to your first match. First thing I want to talk about, when we hit 500 subscribers, going to be giving away some tandem cross goodies. This is the Get a Grip kit for Ruger Mark IVs. So it's got both thumb rests and a hive grip in there. Stripling custom thumb rest. We've got a hive grip for a Smith & Wesson 22 Victory. And we have some mag springs. These are the green springs for the Ruger 1022. So I'll be giving away all these things to different subscribers. Let me know what you want, what you have a need for, because I run Mark III, so I can't run that kit on my Mark IV. Beth already has one on her Mark IV. If you have a Victory, let me know. When we hit 500 subscribers, I'll send those out to some of the subscribers that commented and said they needed them. So we had to work around some major size limitations of this room and rearrange everything to try to do this. So this is going to be our shooting table, the barrel or table that you would have on the range when you walk up to your stage. So we're going to use that today. Forgive the appearance of the room. Had to rearrange everything to get this to work and actually fit on the video the way that we needed it to. So you signed up for your match, you drove to the range, you're there early, you have your gun, you have your extra ammo, you have your magazines, your eye and ear protection. What do you do now? So the first thing you're going to do is ask around, look for other people, see where people are parking. Can be half the battle with some of these ranges is even finding the shooting bays. So once you find them, park, start talking to people, find out who the match director is and get in contact with him. Let them know that you are new and that you've never been here before, and they'll probably walk you through some things. So one of the first things that you're going to do is take your firearms to the safe table. All right, I know I just said that this was our shooting box table, but this is also our safe table because we barely have enough room for the shooting box table. We definitely don't have enough room for an additional safe table. So this will be the safe table. This is downrange. We are standing back here behind the table. So go ahead and check out your gun, get it ready. So you'll notice the bag that she's using. It's got a zippered compartment for the firearm itself, and it has a separate zippered compartment for magazines. This is the type of bag that I prefer to use and I would recommend everybody use. There's another type of bag that can get you in a lot of trouble and I would not recommend anybody use. And it is this type of bag here. So this is the factory bag that my Dan Wesson 1911 that Beth got me for Christmas came in. Inside this bag, there is no separate zippered compartment for the gun. It is just a sleeve. So as you can see, there's no separate zippered compartment, but there is a spot for magazines. And you do not want to use these cases because when you unzip this bag, it is the same as unholstering your handgun, unzipping this bag with the gun in the compartment. Because your firearm is no longer separated, you have free access to your firearm as soon as you unzip this bag. Now, if you have a case like this that has a separate zipper that would contain the gun, that would be okay to use. I still prefer the magazine pouches be on the outside of the bag. But as you can see here, if I go back to my cart and I need to load my mags, I unzip this bag, all of a sudden my gun's right there and it's no longer bagged. That can get you DQ'd really easily. Do not risk it. Do not use these. If you do want a bag like this, you can just leave your magazines separate. So do not put your magazines in these pouches and that will keep you clear and then you can hand carry your magazines, reload them there. Good point, Beth. All right, back to the situation at hand. So Beth here is at the safe table. Do you want to walk them through what you're looking for when you're handling your gun for the first time of the day?
So usually when I go to the safe table, I just take it out and handle it, turn the optic on, and then I'll holster and do a couple practice draws before going and getting the rest of my stuff ready and getting ready to shoot.
So one thing you'll notice that she did not have a dry fire magazine or a moon clip inside of her gun when she rolled up to the safe table. Make sure your gun's clear before you leave the house. All right, so Beth has her magazines loaded. She has her gun in her holster or in the bag. It's getting closer to safety briefing time. it can always be a good idea to figure out which squad you're on. You should see that on practicescore.com, and then figure out which bay you're going to start on. So when you're talking to somebody on the range, or if you're talking to the match director, you can ask them which bay you're going to start on. It's always nice when you're at a new range that you don't know to like go check out the bays and figure out where everything is, so you kind of have a blueprint for how the day is going to go. Make sure you scope out any bathrooms, any safe tables across the range that you may need to use. It's always a good idea before the safety briefing and before you get rolling on everything else.
That's a fun tip for women. You have to go to the safe table to take your gun off and bag it before you can take your holster off. So if we're going to the bathroom, I always would recommend going and trying at least before you get holstered up, because it's way easier.
So going back to the safe table discussion, some things are different between platforms. Here we have a rimfire rifle, and Beth is going to go through how you would look at your rimfire rifle for the day and handle it at the safe table before the match. We'll go over some of the differences between that and pistols.
So really the big difference with rifles is they need to be flagged. So I have a Seymour on this one, which I usually keep it off because the battery drains really fast. So you can turn the optic on and look at it and get a couple like sight pictures. Then I usually turn it off until I'm ready to shoot. But always make sure to have a flag in your rifles. I have a tag on mine, but there's a lot of different options.
And we'll talk about the procedures for unload and show clear when we're talking about actually shooting your stage. We're just talking about when you take your gun to the safe table before the match, things that you look for. So make sure your chamber flag's in there before you get started. Alright, so here we have a single stack. Taking this out at the safe table. No magazine. No dummy round. Big thing when you're going to bag it up or holster it up, make sure you drop the hammer before you holster it or bag it. So hammer down, holster it or bag it. That's a big thing for single stacks or any double action, single action gun. Alright, so you've gone to the safe table, you know where you're going to start, you know what squad you're on. Now you attend the safety briefing given by the match directors. They'll go over safety rules, anything that you'll need to know about the range, maybe upcoming events. They'll go over the general flow for the day. Once the safety briefing is over, you can start walking towards the bay that you're starting on. Once you get there, introduce yourself to everybody, let them know that you're new. So as a new person, don't take offense if people are explaining things to you. Usually more experienced people in a squad will give you a kind of new shooter briefing. That used to be really common at matches. They'd have a separate time in the morning and do like a formal new shooter briefing to go over rules and everything. But from what I've seen recently, it's usually up to the shooters on the squad to mentor those new shooters and teach them the rules. When your squad gets started, somebody will have a timer in their hand. Usually somebody else will have the tablet in their hand. The person with the tablet will read out the shooting order. Since you've already introduced yourself and told everybody that you're new, usually they will put you at the bottom of the shooting order. But if they don't, and they call your name out in the middle or towards the beginning, feel free to ask them to move you to the bottom. It's not a big deal. You can shoot last, and I would recommend shooting last at least the first stage. You don't have to do it every stage of the day if you feel comfortable after that, but I would recommend shooting last at least the first stage to get a feel for the events and how everything's going to go. Alright, so your time to shoot is coming up. You're going to shoot your rimfire rifle first. There are currently people downrange painting. Beth is our shooter. She has her magazines in her hand. We'll pretend that this is the barrel or table beside the shooting box. She is currently standing right behind or beside the shooting box. At this point, she can put her magazines down and get them ready, set the cased gun on the barrel, and absolutely do not unzip it or do anything with your gun itself. She can stage her magazines and get everything ready so that when she's shooting, as soon as the people are done painting and the range is clear to begin firing again, everything is staged and ready to go. And at this point, she's just standing behind or inside the shooting box, waiting for the RO, waiting for the people to return. And as soon as the RO says make ready, now she can begin unzipping her rifle case and getting her rifle case ready, her rifle ready to shoot. Make ready. Alright, important point here, if you are shooting a rifle, you saw when she was unbagging, she pulled the rifle out from the back. She was never reaching up front of the rifle because it is very common for people to flag themselves with a rifle while they are bagging or unbagging. So can you demonstrate how some people bag or unbag that becomes problematic and can end up getting you disqualified?
So I usually keep my case zipped. There's usually 2 zippers, so I keep the first one about like where the muzzle would be, so it's in front of it. So sometimes they get stuck and people might be fumbling with straps and they'll leave their hand here and then they're flagging themselves when they bring the gun out.
Right, so if you saw that, she just flagged her wrist and forearm with the barrel while she was withdrawing the gun from the case because she was reaching forward of that. And straps a lot of times get in the way, like she said, and you'll see people with like flimsier cases that don't have any structure to them have to hold it manually up front to insert the gun in. So if you are going to use a case, I would recommend something like this that has some structure to it, and then just being conscious of that. It's not hard to avoid when you know what to avoid. So be conscious of that whenever you're shooting a rifle. Don't flag yourself. You can unzip it all the way, move your hands back towards the back of the case, and then grab it from the back. You don't have to worry about having your hand out near the muzzle while you're casing or uncasing the gun. So you want to continue your make ready process?
So I already took the flag out, so I'll turn the optic on. And then I usually take some aiming shots at the stage and get a feel for the stage and run through the targets a couple times with it empty. And then I'll load the mag and get ready to shoot.
Alright, and this is all after the RO gives the make ready command. From that point, technically by the rule book, you have 60 seconds to become ready to shoot the stage. So unzip your bag, pull your gun out. She said dry fire the stage a couple times. Usually do that maybe 2, maybe 3 times. Get a feeling for going from the aiming point with rimfire or low ready divisions to the first target, or if you're shooting a center fire division, going from your draw to the first target. And after that make ready command, you no longer need any more commands before you actually take your magazine, insert it, and chamber around, and then get ready to actually shoot the string. There are no additional commands to continue getting ready. It's just make ready.
Okay, so then you can just, the mag's empty, but you'd have a loaded mag and you can load, you chamber around, and then you're ready to shoot.
So rimfire and PCC, you start at the low ready, and there's an aiming point usually 10 feet in front of the box, 2 feet high. You start aimed at that point. Once she is aimed at that point, standing by for the RO will say, "Are you ready?" If she doesn't reply at all, or if she acknowledges in some way that she's ready, he will say, "Stand by." 1 to 4 seconds later, or in Steel Challenge, a quarter to a half second later, you will hear a beep. After the beep, you shoot your 5 targets, shoot the stop plate last. That time becomes your score, and you repeat that process 5 times over. So Beth is going to demonstrate how you change mags after each string. This is also another area that people can get themselves in trouble with rimfire guns, even centerfire guns. You always want to maintain awareness of where your muzzle is. You want to keep it pointed straight and down range. And you also want to keep in mind where your hands are in relation to your muzzle. So do not reach across. If you're shooting a pistol, do not reach across your barrel. We see stuff like that happen all the time. So the mags are staged over here, and it can be different for a left and right-handed shooter. If you're left-handed, you may have to watch out in different areas than a right-handed shooter does. But if you always keep your muzzle pointed straight and down range, and you have an awareness of that when you're moving your hands around, grabbing, changing mags, anything like that, then you'll be safe.
Yep, so I have an extended mag release on this gun, which you'll just release the mag, and then I'll put it to the side, grab a new one, and load it like that. And you don't have to unchamber around each time. You can keep the one that's chambered in the gun, and then just put a fresh mag in. If you had a questionable string and you shot a lot, you can always just pull it back a little bit and check to make sure they're still around in the chamber, and if not, just rack a new one in.
Yep, and here's a pro tip when it comes to managing magazines. This applies to all platforms. If you have your magazines on the barrel or on the table, figure out a system that works for you for distinguishing shot magazines from unshot magazines. So she just took this one out. When I'm shooting a setup like this, I'll usually set it on this side. That way there's no chance I'm grabbing a half-loaded mag from this pile. With revolver, I just keep it on my moon clip holder and move it to the other side. Easy enough. But with rimfire or anything like that, you want to make sure you have a system for making sure you never grab a mag that has 5, 4, 3, 2 rounds in it, and then you go to shoot a string, and now you're reloading on the clock.
Yeah, and I usually, if I'm just shooting rimfire for the day, or when we go to majors and just shoot one gun per flight, I'll have my mags on my belt. There's Dave Parker with Revo Gear makes a really nice mag holder, and I shoot the double mags so you can see through them to see if they're loaded and which one's empty, but I just keep them right in front of me, which is nice when the barrels are far away or maybe they're not there. Then it's always just right in front of you and you don't have to lean or try and reach for your mags in the middle of a string or a stage.
Good point. These black mags will get you. They are very hard to tell when they are fully loaded. So make sure if you're shooting something like this, you have a good system. So Beth just got done shooting her 5 strings. She is completing her course of fire. So I, as the RO, am going to say, if you are finished, unload and show clear. She drops her magazine. She racks the round out. It flies down range. The RO visually confirms that the chamber is clear. And I'll say, if you're clear, flag. This is where she takes her chamber flag and inserts it. That is the process for rimfire rifles. PCCs have an extra step. It's if you're finished, unload and show clear. If clear, hammer down and flag. So what that means is you show clear, RO verifies it's clear, you drop your bolt all the way forward, pull your trigger pointed safely downrange, and then you rack your bolt back again to stick your flag in. So PCCs, remember that added step, drop your bolt, pull your trigger, and then put your flag in. So at that point, she can back her gun. Most people will say, if you're finished, unload, show clear. If clear, flag and bag. That's not officially the range commands, it's just flag, but you have to do something with that gun afterwards. Alright, so she has zipped the zipper all the way closed on the case. She can no longer access the firearm. So now the RO will say the range is clear. And if you're painting that string, it will depend when you're at locals whether you'll be painting between every shooter or not. You should, but they will have the painters go out. The painter should automatically be going out after the range is clear command. So if you're standing by waiting to shoot, if you're not loading mags, getting ready to shoot, if you're not the shooter on deck, or if you're not the shooter that just shot, you should be standing by waiting to paint or helping run the timer tablet. Alright, so at this point she's done. She can take her gun, clear out the shooting area so that the next shooter can get his equipment staged until they are ready for the make ready command. So a very similar process if you're shooting a center fire handgun. You can see she has her gun holstered already. It could also be in a bag, and essentially what she did at the safe table where she unzipped the bag, took the gun out, you would repeat that process here, but in this case it's already on the holster. She has her ammo already staged on her belt, so there's no moon clip sitting on the table. Either way is fine. You do not stage your ammunition on your belt for steel challenge. You can easily set it here and go off the table as well. Everybody is cleared from downrange. We are ready to shoot. Make ready.
So I usually have an optic cover on my optic with spray paint, and if it rains, it just keeps the optic clean. So I'll take that out, and I have a locking lever on my holster, so I'll flick that up, and then I'll dry fire through the stages some and go through the targets a couple times, and then when I'm ready, I'll load the gun. These are dummy rounds, there's no primers or powder in them. And then I'll reholster, and then I'll get into the surrender position to let the RO know that I'm ready to go.
Yeah, so the position for all centerfire handguns is wrists above shoulders. As you can see, this part of her wrist is above her shoulder, and that would be easily visible from the back. That's what the rules stipulate. So as soon as she's in that position as the shooter, I as the RO know that she is ready, assuming that she's not still practicing her draws. But as soon as somebody's loaded and hasn't moved for a second, you can assume that they're ready. So when she's like that, I will say, "Are you ready?" She doesn't acknowledge it at all, or She gives me a positive acknowledgement. I will say stand by, 1 to 4 seconds, or in Steel Challenge, a quarter to a half second. There, you will hear a beep, and she will draw her gun. Draw your gun. Shoot the course of fire, and then when she is completed, if she needs to, she will change magazines, or in this case, moon clips. Since these are 8-round moon clips and it's 5 target engagements, you will always need to change it. Hopefully you don't need to change it during the course of fire. Been there, done that, do it all the time. So now she changed her moon clip out. She's ready for the next string. She had just shot all 5 strings. Me as the RO, I'm going to say, if you're finished, unload and show clear. If clear, cylinder closed and holster. Range is clear. We'll demonstrate this with a normal centerfire handgun. So with a standard centerfire handgun, I'll say, if you are finished, unload and show clear. She drops the magazine out. There's not a magazine in it currently. Then she racks the round out of the chamber. If clear, hammer down and holster. So after the gun is completely clear, you point it down range. It's pointed at the berm. Pull the trigger. That drops the hammer. And then the command is holster. In this case, there is a bag. So she will bag it. Range is clear, and she is good to go back, reload her mags, whatever else she needs to do. If you are shooting a rimfire pistol, there's a pretty common misconception that they need to be flagged. Rimfire pistols do not need to be flagged. You just have to have the magazine out, unload the round from it, then you can bag it. So the commands for rimfire pistols are actually, if you're finished, unload, show clear. If clear, bag. It used to be hammer down, but by the rules you did not actually have to drop the hammer, but it was still part of the commands for some reason. Now it's, if you're finished, unload, show clear. If clear, bag. You do not have to have a chamber flag and a .22 pistol for Steel Challenge.
And just another tip, like when you're showing clear, sometimes guys get ahead of themselves and will show clear really fast and then either holster or put the gun away. Just make sure like the RO actually sees that it's clear, and maybe you have to like turn a little bit or move to the side so they can actually see in the chamber or in the cylinder to make sure that that firearm is clear before putting it away. Ultimately, it's on the shooter, but it's just nice to make sure that the RO can see that you are clear before you bag your gun.
Yeah, and for the love of God, if you're shooting a holstered handgun, do not rush to reholster. Do not abruptly do it. It does not need to be the fastest motion in the world. After your last shot is fired, you're no longer on the timer. There is no rush after that. Make a deliberate motion to holster your gun, especially if you're new and you don't really know the position of that holster. I've seen plenty of people go to holster their gun and miss the holster. And if you're doing that super abruptly and violently to try to look cool or like get done 0.5 seconds faster, you're going to miss your holster eventually and your gun's going to fall on the ground and you're going to be DQ'd. Best case scenario. Worst case scenario, you drop your gun and it goes off and kills somebody, right? Like, probably not going to happen, but it has happened before. So don't be that guy. When you're holstering, make a deliberate motion. If you're not sure where your holster is, look your gun into the holster. Don't just walk up there like you're John Wick and just sling that thing into the holster for some reason. You're not on the clock anymore. It's not a measured performance metric. So be deliberate when you're holstering your gun. And when you're shooting a match, if somebody has a gun that you're interested in, by all means, ask them if you can test it out. Most people at matches have extra ammo, and they'd love for you to test out their guns because they spend a lot of money on it and they take a lot of pride in it. So it's not really ever an inconvenience unless you find that one guy on the range. But 99% of people will let you borrow their gear, test it out, like maybe shoot a stage with it, not for score of course, but people will let you dry fire their guns at the safe table all the time. So if you see somebody with a piece of equipment that you're interested in, by all means, ask them about it. And if they're cool with it, ask them if you can shoot it or if you can take it to the safe table and dry fire it. A lot of people love their equipment and they're happy to let you do it. So as a left-handed shooter, sometimes it can be awkward doing mag changes. Your free hand is reaching to a table. So like I said earlier, keep your muzzle pointed downrange and it no longer becomes an issue. Like there's no way I'm flagging myself if my muzzle is pointed straight down range and I'm reaching over here to my left with my right hand. And there's no chance of me flagging myself like that. So that's how, as a lefty, you can safely change mags. Do not be the guy who is shooting like this and goes to change his mags like this. Like, do not do that. Just keep your muzzle straight down range and change your magazines that way. So don't bring your gun in and try to do it like this and work like this. Straighten down range, grab whatever you need. Same for a right-handed shooter on a stage like Showdown. You can also use this technique to stay safe there. So if you're shooting your string and you have a malfunction, the time does not stop on that string. You're still on the clock. Just be safe, like we talked about. Keep your muzzle straight and down range while you're clearing that malfunction. Make sure your trigger finger is outside the trigger guard. So do not have your trigger finger resting on the trigger while you're clearing your malfunction. And same thing, if you run out of ammo, you can reload on the clock. Just be aware of your muzzle, be aware of your trigger finger, and you're good to go. There is exactly one stage in Steel Challenge that has movement in it called Outer Limits. There are 3 boxes. You start in the box corresponding to your weak hand, so opposite of your strong hand. So left-handed, I start in the right-hand box, and I move towards the center. Right-handed shooters start in the left-hand box and move towards the center. On that stage, there will be 2 targets on either side. If you're starting in the left box, you shoot the left 2 targets first. Starting in the right box, shoot the right 2 targets first. Both transition to the center and shoot the remaining 3 targets. The biggest thing to keep in mind there is if you are not aiming at targets, your finger must be off the trigger. So what that means is when you are moving, if you drop your gun down to the ground, if you're flailing your gun around within the 180, if you're still being safe, but your gun is not pointed in the general direction of the targets, if your shot would go off while you're moving and it would be a disqualification because it went over the berm or it went within 10 feet of you, your finger should be off the trigger. So a lot of people shoot the second target, and as they're transitioning, they're already aiming at the 3rd target when they're coming into the box. In that case, they're intentionally aiming at a target, and that is permitted. So keep your finger off the trigger until you're aiming at the target. So we talked about in the last video not having 5 magazines. In this case, let's say I'm shooting single stack and I have 3 magazines. I'm shooting my strings, it's all great. When I take my magazine out, I'm going to set it on the table back here with my ammo. I would have ammunition right here, and ask somebody else on my squad to load this magazine while I shoot these other ones. So then I can shoot the second mag. They're back here loading my mag. Shoot, it's great. Take my mag out, set it back here until you have 5 mags to complete the stage. That's how you can manage not having 5 magazines pretty easily. Obviously, when you can and are available to, if you're going to shoot this more frequently, I would recommend having 5 to 6 magazines. 6 just in case things happen, you need to restart a string, whatever. But 5 makes it really nice and makes it an easier time for everybody. Alright guys, I think that's it for this video. Hope you learned something. Send this to the new shooters in your life who are checking out their first match. Help get us to 500 subscribers, and we'll give away some goodies to some of you. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time.
Yeah.
Make ready. Are you ready? Stand by. 319. Got it. Are you ready? Stand by. 399.
Come on, Jaeger, get your head out of your ass.
Are you ready? Stand by. 305. Are you ready? Stand by. 333.
Final strain coming up.
Are you ready? Stand by. 308.
Yep.
If you are finished, unload, show clear. If clear, cylinder closed, holster. Range is clear.